Welcome back to Kevin Wilson SBC. Today, let's finally talk about ladder bars and the differences between ladder bars and 4-link on a drag car rear suspension. Quick shout out on the remote services that we're offering to our YouTube subscribers and those who are watching the videos. Please remember to go to samsonperformance.com. You can look at the different packages we offer for helping you tune your rear suspension and your front suspension for your drag car remotely via email with a phone call. Bring your race car to our shop, or I will come to you at your shop. Please remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel. I really appreciate all the support you guys are giving me on my channel. Hit the bell icon to be notified about new videos coming out. There are more videos on the way with rear suspensions, but for now, let's jump in. Let's talk more about ladder bars, and let's focus on ladder bars with slicks. Let's talk about ladder bars versus 4-link, and let's go from there. This drawing, as I've told you in many of my videos, I'm not an artist, so this is very exaggerated on purpose, just to drive home the point of a ladder bar. So for those of you who are wondering, here's your rear axle housing, here's your brackets, however you want to draw these brackets. Some ladder bar brackets, the ladder bar mount points are further out from the axle center line, some are over the center line. Don't get too hung up on those details right now. Let's just focus on a ladder bar and how it's different than a 4-link. So for a ladder bar, you have 3 mount points, and whereas a 4-link, you have an upper bar and a lower bar, each with their own mount points. You have 4 mount points. So generally with a ladder bar car, you're around 3 to maybe 4 points of changes. All right. And also, generally on most of the ladder bar cars we're working on, this top bar will have an adjustment in it so that you can a turnbuckle per se on both ladder bars, and we use that to set pinion angle and preload. So, in these situations, you have 3 bolts, because in a ladder bar your upper bar is attached to your bottom bar, usually around the front mount heim joint or just a little bit behind the heim joint there. But in essence, a ladder bar is actually pretty simple. You have a lot less changes to make with a ladder bar, and generally that's not necessarily a bad thing. I see with a 4-link, it's not so much that you have so many more great choices to make. You can make the same choices with a ladder bar. You can make a few better choices than a ladder bar, and you can make a whole lot more worse choices than a ladder bar. So even though I prefer a 4-link rear suspension for the most tunability and for changing the intersect point and the instant center and etc., a ladder bar works. These are very good and solid tools to use on a rear suspension to a point. Now, as we continue to make the power we're making in today's world, as we're continuing to apply the kind of crazy hits that we can do, etc., hands down, more tunability with a 4-link. My point is, sometimes I see guys getting in more trouble with 4-links because you may have 50, and some of them have 500 combinations of hole placements that you can make between the upper rear, upper front, lower rear, lower front mount points. Doesn't mean that you have 497 better points than a ladder bar that may only have 3 or 4 adjustments. It just means that you have a lot more tunability, but you have a lot more room to get in trouble and get a little crazy as well. So just wanted to put that out there. We have built a lot of successful drag cars using 4-link and ladder bars. Very early on, it was all about ladder bars. Simple, easy. We made a lot of our own ladder bars. Generally, the ladder bars we made were in the 30 to 36 inch length range. If you measured from here to here, generally they were around anywhere from 30 to 36 inches. It depended on the chassis. It depended on how much room we had, is what kind of dictated the length. Back in the day, it wasn't so much about a short ladder bar versus a long ladder bar. It was all about what could fit. What could we fit in that rear suspension to help get this thing to hook? And the fitment kind of determined the length. We didn't really try to shove a short or long ladder bar in our car because we were trying to accomplish something different. Especially back then, all we knew is the darn thing worked. And you know, we did a lot of these with leaf spring rear ends, and you know, we went with the mono leaf rear end with the floating housing and a slider on the rear shackle mount back there. And we had a lot of mono leaf spring cars with 4 links that could 60 foot all day long. So, you know, just because a 4-link has so many more combinations, it doesn't necessarily make it so much better. I still prefer it. It just means you got a lot more room to get in trouble. You have 3 main mount points, and generally, and so let's consider these circles up here frame mounts. And like I said, this is very exaggerated. However, whoever welds in these brackets, whoever sets up the locations of these brackets, really determines what your options are. And we've seen some really janky stuff where people, you sit back and you wonder, what did they even understand what they were doing when they placed these things? And sometimes it is what it is. But generally, in a ladder bar car, you have 3 holes on the frame mount that you can place your front mount. And you'll hear people call this the push point. You'll hear people call this the lift point. At the end of the day, this is where, when the rear end begins to twist and try to drive forward, this is the point whereby the ladder bar is trying to push your chassis. So the same anti-squat line applies. The anti-squat line for a car is the same whether it's got ladder bars or 4-link, or whether it's got a torque arm or leaf springs and cow tracks, etc. You still have an anti-squat or neutral line like we've talked about in all our other videos. The difference here is, depending on who welded your brackets and the spread here. Now, you can disagree, but I tend to always want to know what's this spread. You know, how far from the axle center line is the top mount bolt? How far from the axle center line down is the bottom mount bolt? I still like to know that. And I still want to understand the angle of this bottom bar. You know, is it level to the ground? Is it pointing down to the ground as it goes to the front tire, or does it have a little rake up as it goes to the front tire? Generally, what we do on a ladder bar car is, you know, we will always try to start off with a fairly level bottom bar. And here again, that's a very high general statement. Depending on the anti-squat line, the neutral line of that car, and where this point falls on that line will make a difference on how the chassis reacts on the hit. Generally for us, a ladder bar car has an easier time of creating rear separation. There are still guys, in my last video that I just put out, there are still people who just absolutely positively disagree with me and tell me you cannot run a slick car with more than 100% anti-squat. That's your opinion, and you're welcome to it. You set your car up however you see fit. Would we try to run a 2,000 horsepower car with ladder bars and a lot of separation? Probably not. Okay, so here again, it's keeping things in balance. The more up the chain of horsepower and torque you go with a slick car, the more we're going to have to be cognizant of getting closer to the anti-squat line, either less than 100% or more than 100%. I'm trying to keep things in balance. In the spirit of keeping things in balance, here's what I want you to take away on ladder bars and rear suspension. Hopefully you have a ladder bar setup that has a turnbuckle on either the upper or the lower bars. I personally prefer a turnbuckle adjustment on the top bar of a ladder bar system. Once you get the rear end squared up in the chassis, and once you get it centered, or with a little rear steer, depending on your level of horsepower and what you're thinking your car is going to need, once you get that set, you set your pinion angle with both top turnbuckles. And you want to have your pinion angle set evenly. You want both of your ladder bars the equal amount of distance on that turnbuckle. We're shooting to have a car set up at neutral preload to start with, to get our pinion angle set. And we've talked about pinion angle before, but in most of our door slammer cars, we're shooting for about 1 degree negative, maybe 1.5 degree negative. But we're going to set our pinion angle right here with these turnbuckles. Secondly, we'll use these turnbuckles to help move weight around. At the end of the day, we do the same thing with a 4-link car. We'll go to the passenger side top rear bar, and we will either add or remove preload to put weight on the left and rear slicks like we think we need to go out to the track. So once we get the pinion angle set, and if I need to shift weight around on the rear suspension with a ladder bar car, I'm going to go to the passenger side ladder bar, and I'm either going to extend or shorten 1 flat or 2 flats with this turnbuckle to put weight where I want it based on that car and based on rear steer, either in or out of the rear end. And that's the two things we're going to do with that turnbuckle. There is no magic there other than your pinion angle and adding preload to your rear end. The other thing is, as we've talked about with the anti-squat line, if you have an anti-squat line that, does this, okay, this is for demonstration only. If your car is squishing the slick or slamming the slick to the track and just balling the slick up and running over itself, and you've got way too much separation in your car, you're going to want to come down one hole. That's going to take some bite, some violent separation out of the rear end of that car, and it's not going to kill the slick as hard. If you don't have enough separation, or you're running a radial and you are trying to get everything you can to slam that radial to the track, or you need more separation on your slick, if you need to add bite and add reaction to the rear end, you're going to want to bring it up to the upper bolt hole. As you bring the front mount up, it's generally going to increase separation and plant the tire harder. As you bring the ladder bar down, it's going to take some of the violent separation out. It's going to calm it down. It's not going to plant or squish the tire as hard. And those are your tuning aids. The ladder bar system works. And these are your tuning adjustments on a ladder bar. You've got the mounting positions where they mount to the frame. You don't have the luxury of moving rear bar mounts around. You can get creative and work on that if you want, but generally the spread between here and here is a fixed distance. So these are welded and reinforced. You're not going to be changing this spread on a ladder bar system. Now, if you want to have additional mounting holes on your brackets, you can get creative, and you can add holes here and add a hole up here, and you can shift this thing around. There's nothing saying you can't do that. But generally, once you mount your ladder bar, the top bar is a little closer to the rear end center line, and the bottom bar is further away from the rear end center line. And we're not going to get caught up in all that math right now. But your adjustability on a ladder bar car is this front mount hole based on your anti-squat line and what your car is doing. And whether you're running coil springs or leaf springs, you can make changes to the spring rates to also complement what your ladder bar suspension is doing. So the same spring compression, the springs and coilovers, everything we've talked about those coilover shocks and springs with a 4-link system, the same theories apply with a ladder bar. Those shocks don't care if it's a ladder bar or 4-link. Those shocks and springs are working together to either help slow down or resist or try to overcome movement back here to help you have more tuning ability to control the traction of that rear end. Whether you're running a leaf spring car or whether you're running coilover shocks and coilover springs, the same theories apply on a ladder bar rear end. So let's summarize ladder bars. Let's bring this to a conclusion real quick. In closing, ladder bars absolutely do work. Most drag racers can run ladder bars successfully and really simplify their life. You can run ladder bars with coilover shocks and coilover springs. You can run ladder bars with leaf springs. You can run ladder bars on various setups, and they're generally simpler, but you do lose some tunability over 4-link. And we talked about that. We talked about just because you have 50 or 500 options with a 4-link bar doesn't mean all of those are better than a ladder bar system. Generally, you have a lot more options with a 4-link car to get yourself in trouble. You can match a ladder bar system with a 4-link, and you can make improvements over a ladder bar with a 4-link, but generally you have a lot more points to go crazy with. So that's the absolute truth. So you have 3 mount points on a ladder bar. Generally they're fixed on the rear end. Well, they have to be because it's a solid unit, and your adjustability is where they mount to the frame. Most ladder bar systems have 3 or 4 mount options on the frame side, and depending on who welded this stuff in and how it falls in relation to your anti-squat line, those are the tunability adjustments you have. If you need to increase the bite and add more planting to the slick or the radial, you move your front mount up on the chassis. If your rear end is too violent, or you're separating too hard, or you need to take some bite away from the slick or the radial, you're going to move your ladder bar down. And those are the adjustments you're going to make on your ladder bars. Like I said, generally ladder bars are 30 to 36 inches long. 90% of the time they're 32 inches long. But the length of the ladder bar does change some of the characteristics of it. A shorter ladder bar is going to react a little quicker and harder on the frame, but also not hold that reaction as far down the track. A little longer intersect point, or a little longer push point or mount point or lift point, whatever you want to call it, generally a little longer ladder bar, the reaction is going to be a tad slower and hold that reaction a little longer down the track. Let's don't get caught up on all the length and everything though. The purpose of this video was to explain ladder bars on rear suspension, how you tune your ladder bar, where does your mount point hit with relation to your anti-squat line, and are you above or below the anti-squat line. Add bite up, remove bite down. Don't forget your shocks and your coil springs behave the same way. Compression and rebound work the same way on a ladder bar versus a 4-link. The compression and rebound knobs are doing the exact same thing on that shock. Depending on what kind of separation and what's going on in your car is how you're going to tune those compression and rebound knobs. Spring rate acts the same way. They don't care about 4-link or ladder bars. So this is how we summarize ladder bars. I would not be afraid of ladder bars. We've ran them successfully for many, many, many years. It's just, if you tell me, Kevin, I'm building a chassis, what do you want, ladder bars or 4-links? I'm going to tell you 4-links all day long. 4 equal length bars on a 4-link system. And don't forget, preload acts the same way. If I want to add weight to the passenger side right rear tire, I'm going to shorten the passenger side upper turnbuckle. If I want to move weight to the driver's side left rear slick, I'm going to lengthen the passenger side upper turnbuckle on that ladder bar. 1 or 2 flats. Remember, keep things in balance. Thank you for watching this video on ladder bar rear suspensions for drag cars. I think this will help some of you understand a little bit more the simplicity of a ladder bar and how easy it is to look at your car, look at a video of the launch, see what's happening on the launch, look at your air pressure, look at different things, look at your shock rates and spring rates, make adjustments up or down depending on what you want to do, reset your pinion angle, re-verify any preload that you want to have, and go out and make another hit. So ladder bars, simple, easy to use, same principles apply on the anti-squat line. It's just you're not moving 2 bars around, you're moving 1 mount point around, and how you move that mount point determines on whether you're going to add more anti-squat or less than 100% anti-squat. So that's how it works. Please remember to subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys for all the support. If you want any more help, if you want me to help you more, go to SampsonPerformance.com. Look at the packages we have online to help you. Yes, there's a free service still on there. Yes, I'm still doing everything I can to provide free help. So go out, take a look at that. Let us help you with your rear suspension. And let's remember, there are 3 things we're trying to help you do. We're trying to help you go fast. We're trying to help you go straight. And more importantly, we're trying to help you be safe.